This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to look back at the 2025 FCL season for the Orioles. Now, the FCL season has been over for a couple of weeks, but between the draft and the trade deadline, we've had a lot going on over here. So we're just now getting a chance to recap what went on down in the FCL this year. And there were a lot of stories. Not all of them were positive, certainly with the death of Luis Guevara during the season. Very trying year for these players. Nevertheless, though, the team did put together a 37-22 record. Several of their notable prospects were able to make the jump up from the FCL to low A at some point during the season, whether it was early on like Nate George or right around the time the season ended for the cases of players like Esteban Mejia, Steven Martinez, and Andrew Tess. And the Orioles managed over the course of the season to lead the league in several key categories offensively, including batting average and OPS. Their pitching staff, meanwhile, held up on its own pretty well, posting the third best ERA in the system at 3.70. So what we're going to do tonight is break down some of the notable performances that we saw in the FCL this season. We'll wrap up by naming our pitcher and hitter of the year for the level. And Nick, I will start with you. You had written an article before the FCL season got underway that said that this was the best roster that the Orioles had fielded at the FCL for years. Do you think that this team lived up to that expectation?
Yeah, I so wish this is the only affiliate we get nothing from. So it always makes this episode the hardest to do. But this was definitely the most interesting year to follow the FCL. And I think a lot of that had to do with the rising group of international prospects in the system. Andrew Tess and Nate George had fantastic years down there and really helped this team. And even guys like Luis Almeida and Joshua Lorenzo were up kind of early, but you still saw the depth of the international prospects in the system start to rise. And they were a big reason why this FCL team, I think they were only one game out of the playoffs. So it was a very good year down there. Pitching, there's some intriguing arms we could take note of here, but of course, all the top guys are now in Delmarva, and we'll dive more into those guys as Delmarva wraps up. But yeah, still a very impressive group down there in the FCL that didn't go up. And I think a very big prospect of note that did not get that call up to Delmarva yet for we think we know why, but yeah, pretty good year down there in the FCL. Shout out to those who get a chance to watch those games because you got to see some really good baseball this year.
Yeah, I think it's the best FCL team other than maybe that first year when Gunnar was there. And I don't know, I'd have to go back and look.
The championship year, the greatest team to ever exist.
Yeah, but I'd have to compare. But just the depth of talent alone, I feel like was pretty incredible this year. Even DJ Layton, Braylon Whitaker, you could just rattle off names that even if they didn't succeed, didn't have the best success, there's still guys that I'm watching for next year and I'm intrigued by. But yeah, what a season. Even I feel like all the pitchers that got starters innings, at least even I don't have my notes for this part, but either Jesus Palacios or one of the other lefties, Francisco Morale, one of them had a 6.5 ERA, but a million strikeouts. So at least they had that going for them. But I feel like all the pitchers that got starters innings really kind of showed out a little bit. And obviously the lineup was just pretty deep from top to bottom. Even as guys left, guys like Jose Mejia, Adriander Mejia, these guys stepped up. Felix Amparo, he got off to a slow start, but then towards the end of the season, he started kicking it into high gear. So, yeah, a lot of these guys obviously going to be moving up till Delmarva start 2026, and the international market has arrived for the Baltimore Orioles, like it already had, because obviously Samuel Basallo will be making his major league debut potentially this week, potentially the week after, but yeah, I think it's just continuing to proliferate up the system.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start by focusing on the bats. As I mentioned, the Orioles led the FCL in batting average and OPS this year. And they had a few hitters get off to really hot starts there and earn a promotion to Delmarva early in the season. Nate George had an OPS of over 1,000 in 23 games before he was promoted. Luis Almeida putting together what has really been, to this point at least, his first healthy season as a professional. Got off to a good start there. 20 games, 729 OPS before he was promoted. Joshua Lorenzo, who was hampered a little bit last year by an ankle injury or a lower body injury from what we have heard, 24 games before he was promoted. He put up very strong numbers as well. And you would have thought after those three guys left that this lineup would have lost a little bit of momentum. And that wasn't the case. And I think two big reasons why were Andrew Tess and Jordan Sanchez. And these are two players with much different profiles. Sanchez, an outfielder with a lot of raw power. Tess, a catcher / first baseman who has a lot of room to grow defensively, but put together a solid year thanks to good bat-to-ball skills and a really, really patient approach at the plate for his age. So there are more hitters we could shout out, and I'm sure that we will in this segment. But I think when you look at those two guys in particular, they really helped carry the load for this lineup over the course of the season.
Yeah, Andrew Tess, I feel like he started off and he was just walking a ton, not exactly making maybe it was, I didn't see his BABIP. Maybe it was bad luck. Maybe it was just, not seeing the ball particularly well. But then, man, towards the end of that season, he was just roasting the ball in the FCL, got his numbers for the season up to a really good level. I think he's looked really good since I've been able to see him at Delmarva. So certainly excited about him at 18, 19 years old. Again, don't have my notes, so it's one of those. He's young, high school draft pick. And Jordan Sanchez, yeah, just slugger. I mean, he did basically what he did in the DSL, just translated over to the FCL, didn't miss a beat. And yeah, shame he had to get hurt on the last game of the season, or I think we'd be seeing him in Delmarva right now. But yeah, great year for him. Another great international prospect to add to the list.
Yeah, Tess, we talked about him last week and the fact that just the fact that he's an 18-year-old and learning to catch. And we talked a lot about the struggles with Creed Willems and what he had to adjust to behind the plate early on in his career. Andrew Tess has got to do that as well, calling games, learning the pitching staff, language barrier as well down there. So a lot to deal with for an 18-year-old kid. And he was a 149 WRC plus in the FCL. And since he's moved up to Delmarva, just 10 games, it's a 135 WRC plus. He's had a tremendous year. And Sanchez, like I've never been so frustrated with a player that I have no business being frustrated with. But it's just because outside of a couple of games with the DSL, like we've had zero opportunity to really sit down and watch Sanchez. And we know he is a very good prospect in the system. He is a top 30 prospect. He's someone that we're all excited to watch. And you look at the numbers, a 165 WRC plus in the DSL last year. He gets to the FCL this year, a 161 WRC plus. The strikeout rate did jump from 20% to 29%, but the walk rate went up even more to 16%. He had 24 extra base hits on the year, hit nearly 300. I think the 29% strikeout rate is kind of an outlier. I don't think he hits that again, but don't know exactly what to make of it. I've not been able to watch him on a nightly basis, but it's the power that also makes him so intriguing. Because we do know when he was in the DSL, he was topping out at 108 plus miles per hour exit velo numbers. I don't know what they were this year. I'm sure they're even higher. And if they are, this is a kid with like plus power potential. So yeah, hopefully the injury isn't too serious. And hopefully he is the starting right fielder, left fielder, doesn't matter, on opening day for Delmarva next year. And we can finally, after 2 years, watch this kid.
Yeah, see, I've been unable to move him past a certain point because I haven't really been able to see him I'm interested to compare him to Thomas Sosa once we actually do, because I've been able to watch Thomas Sosa just annihilate a baseball. And yeah, he's a fun player who hasn't put it all together yet. But yeah, Jordan Sanchez, is he better than Thomas Sosa? About the same, worse? It's hard to tell until we actually see him in person.
Yeah, if you're going to go purely off the stat line, I think that you would probably argue for Sanchez over Sosa because it's not. I think both have raw power, but it would seem that Sanchez has tapped into his a little bit more. But Sosa has also been doing it at a higher level. So you got to weigh that consideration as well. And honestly, I don't know that I can give you any sort of educated guess even on how Jordan Sanchez looks defensively at this point. So that's one thing that is a little bit frustrating when you're trying to evaluate him. But you can see from the numbers that he's someone with a lot of power. And I want to shout out Tess for this reason. I knew that early on this year he was struggling to at least have the balls put in play, dropped for hits. Over his first 30 games, or through his first 30 games, he was hitting 187. But he had a 415 on-base percentage, and some of that was because he was hit by the pitch 10 times in just 30 games. But he also drew 20 walks in that time period. And by the end of the season, he got the batting average up to 256, a 149 WRC plus, as Nick just mentioned a moment ago, and an 18% walk rate. So he clearly stayed within himself with his approach and was able to make the adjustments that he needed to make to start having success, and got to low as a young prospect by the end of this season. We just talked on our last episode about what a big deal it was for Nate George to get to Delmarva and then get up to Aberdeen at 19 years old. Andrew Tess got to Delmarva at 18. He's not going to turn 19 until next week. He will be Delmarva's opening day catcher next year, most likely at just 19 years old. So that really puts into perspective how far he's come this season.
Yeah, for sure. And this is not going to contribute any way to your analysis that you just did, but thinking of future Orioles Major League giveaways, test trucks, like, let's go. Come on. I could see it in my head right now. But yeah, you got to love the development of Andrew Tess at 18 years old, and just, yeah, you've seen the progression throughout the year as he's learned and adjusted. So I can imagine him coming out and just, like, not even he might be Delmarva's opening day catcher, but if he's going to continue to make strides over the offseason into next year, it probably won't be for long before he's in Aberdeen.
I mean, any giveaway is better than a bobblehead of your owner, but I want to give a couple other one other shout out for positive play. Jose Mejia, I think somebody mentioned the name earlier, but just very quietly had a good year. They did send him up to Aberdeen for a couple of games, but I don't think the 2 games in May, due to just an injury-riddled year, pitching, hitters, it didn't matter, majors, minors, all across the organization. I don't think that classifies him as a bounce-around guy, the bounce-around org guy we typically see. I think it was just an emergency, and Mejia's a good bat, so they called him up for 2 days. He got a $410,000 signing bonus 2 years ago, so I think there is some optimism here. He hit 275 this year in the FCL, had a 16.5% walk rate, just a 10% strikeout rate, played second, third, both corner outfield spots. So that's a guy that I'm intrigued by. Like, that's a guy that I'm circling the name. I don't know how high the ceiling is, but that's at least a guy that's going to be of intrigue, when probably he's a utility guy for Delmarva next year. And you mentioned the high school picks. Yeah, Whitaker was, the 2024 draft pick that we knew like nothing about. The kid from North Carolina, very little information out there. And he really wasn't getting a regular run in the FCL to begin the year. And then he hit the 60-day IL. I don't know if his injury was ever announced. Probably not. But so we still didn't learn anything this year about Braylon Whitaker, unfortunately. But with DJ Layton, I don't think any of us had any visions of him like instantly stepping on the field and doing what Nate George did. We didn't even envision Nate George doing what Nate George is doing, but there was definitely a lot of excitement about him. But if you look at his numbers, they weren't very good this year, straight up. And especially because, the first time we saw DJ Layton was the spring breakout game. I think he was a pinch hitter, got that base hit up the middle. You're like, all right, we're cooking with something here. He was a 6th round pick that got his 700 something signing bonus, almost $400,000 above slot value. I don't remember the exact amount, but he was, for those first couple of weeks, like he was always at the top of the leaderboard in terms of at bat. So they were running him out there every day, the top of the lineup. And then he didn't play for like 3 weeks, didn't go in the IL, but he didn't play. Clearly he was hurt. Never really got a chance to show any signs of life and really settle in. So I think this year, kind of a wash, unfortunately, but hopefully he's producing down there in the FCL postseason play and see what he can do next year, probably repeating FCL, to be honest. But I mean, 2 out of 4 high school picks last year took off this year. So really can't complain too much about this group after year 1.
Not at all. And another guy I just want to shout out is Jose Perez, who started the season in the DSL, I want to say, got promoted to the FCL around when Nate George was promoted to Delmarva, and put up some pretty good numbers in the FCL. And for the past 2 weeks, he's been playing some third base for the Bowie or Chesapeake Bay Sox randomly. So interesting year for that guy.
We'll go over now to the pitching staff. And I think that if you're following the Orioles farm system at this point, you know who the headliner was in the FCL this year on the pitching side, and that was Esteban Mejia. Mejia put up phenomenal numbers, 11 starts, a 2.45 ERA with 53 strikeouts, which was good for second in the FCL this season, over 40 and a third innings pitched. He's gotten top 100 shout out from Baseball America. He's now at low A Delmarva. And Mejia, I know we're going to talk about him a lot on this episode, but he was not the only pitcher that stood out this season. Francisco Morale, a guy that Bob just mentioned a moment ago, struck out 42 batters in 34 2/3 innings pitched while posting a 3.38 ERA. Jesus Palacios, 6.5 ERA, yes, but he also whiffed 52 batters in 36 innings pitched. So you look at this pitching staff, some decent strikeout numbers from both starters and relievers. I know that Mejia is the big name here, but overall, this is a pretty solid group.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adrian Heredia is another guy that had a pretty good season in the FCL. He got a cup of coffee with Delmarva when I think they needed some fresh arms for some injuries, and did not perform well there in a very short sample, but came back down to the FCL. And again, another left-handed pitcher who I know nothing about. I didn't even get to see his Delmarva stint or outing, but numbers look good. And who's the other guy? Kevin Velasco, I think. Is that a name?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. He had a good year as well.
Yeah, that's another guy I'm really intrigued by when it comes to the Delmarva pitching staff in early 2026.
Hopefully you guys aren't hearing all the dinging and all the noise. Okay, good. My wife is blowing up my phone because apparently Taylor Swift is going on New Heights podcast and she's freaking out. Your husband has a podcast. Why don't you watch that one first? Anyway, yeah, the pitching in the FCL. Francisco Morales is the big name that I think I'm excited to watch. 6'2" lefty. Good DSL debut, struggled in the FCL last year, repeated the level, still 19 years old, and the strikeout rate went from 22% to almost 28%. The walk rate dropped 15% to 12.6%, so still not good there, but he's young. He's figuring it out in the right direction. He was 92 when they first signed him. He got one of those introductory videos after the international classes signed, but he was up to 92 with life, according to the Orioles. Changeup that projects to be an average offering, and a 12.6 curveball as a strikeout pitch. So yeah, the stat sheet looked good this year down there in the FCL, and if the data under the hood matches that, then I think he's going to be a really interesting name to watch in Delmarva. And I believe the best stat, I was trying to find if there was another at bat. I believe it was just one at bat though. Ronald Acuna Jr. is 0 for 1 against Francisco Morale this year. So yeah, another notch on Morale's belt. And then you mentioned Kevin Velasco. I actually did write him down here. Signed for just $50,000 a couple of years ago. Doesn't turn 20 until January. He had 40 innings in the DSL last year with a 1.13 ERA, 52 strikeouts to 10 walks. This year in the FCL, 36 innings, 34 strikeouts, 12 walks, 3.75 ERA. Don't know much about the stuff. Don't know anything about the stuff, to be honest. But the numbers look good. This could be another low dollar fun sign by the Orioles here. And I will say I was trying to find some more information about the stuff, and there was an article, a Prospects Live article from last August that had one under the radar prospect for each organization. And Preston Farr, whoever you are, he chose Kevin Velasco as his under the radar pick for the Orioles to have a breakout 2025. So that didn't happen, but still time. So if it does, shout out to Preston Farr for calling that. And yeah, you mentioned Palacios. He did have a ton of strikeouts, I think 52 strikeouts or something in like 20, 30 something innings. He was also involved in the jet ski accident. So I do wonder, obviously I didn't really know how to bring him up in this episode, how to talk about that one. But there's a lot of talent there in that arm. I think we'll see what his status is next year, but definitely a ton of strikeouts this year in the FCL. And one more name, Harlan Knott, 6'2", righty, 20 years old, doesn't turn 21 until next April. So he was one of those older arms that the Orioles signed late in the year. He signed last July, only got 10 innings in the DSL, but they bumped him up to the FCL this year. 31 innings at 2.3 ERA, 175 average against. Strikeouts low, only 18.5%, but he's got good walk numbers. And maybe like put him in Delmarva's bullpen next year and see if anything's there. But yeah, Harlan Knott, Kevin Velasco, and Francisco Morale were the three big guys that are still down there in the FCL right now.
Is there a big breakout for Harlan in 2026? Probably not, but we'll see.
One more guy I would shout out in this group. I know we talked about him a little bit in our last episode, and that's Andy Fabian. Fabian, after primarily starting in the DSL last year, moved to the bullpen this season and put up pretty good numbers in the FCL. 17 innings pitched, 26 strikeouts, a 2.12 ERA. The walks were a little high, and the ground ball rate was down. But one thing of note is that last year, Fabian was primarily 91 to 93 was the fastball in the DSL out of the rotation. This year, it's been more 93 to 95. I don't know if this is a situation where the velo increase was going to happen anyways, or if they were putting him in the bullpen to get more out of his fastball, and that's exactly what happened. But that's a little bit of a stuff jump that I want to note. And now Fabian is older. He's 22. He's going to turn 23 in January. But if you're looking for someone that the Orioles could develop as kind of an interesting under-the-radar relief prospect, Fabian is one of those guys. Good curveball to go with his fastball as well.
Yeah, like we talked about on the last episode, gets a ton of ground balls, doesn't give up much hard contact, strikes out a ton of guys, walks a ton of guys, but funky delivery. Obviously, batters have a hard time seeing what's coming in there. So hopefully can continue to build on that.
And with that, now we will head into our final segment of the night. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. And when you're at the ballpark this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate, where you can get one of Checker Spot's signature beers, The Bird is the Word. And in our final segment tonight, we're going to present our hitter and pitcher of the year for the FCL. Now, what we did was we all three went in and submitted our votes for the best hitter and the best pitcher. There was no ranked voting, and there was no drama here. Across the board, we had the same two players, Jordan Sanchez for hitter of the year and Esteban Mejia for pitcher of the year. And if you've heard us talk about these guys on this episode tonight, we've already dove into some of the numbers for both of them, but we'll give a little bit more background as we shout them out here in this segment. Nick, I will start with you. We mentioned it still feels like there's a lot of things we don't know about Jordan Sanchez, but statistically, what we could see from him this season was very impressive.
Yeah, and even though he's not in Delmarva yet, like he turns 20 in October, so yeah, he might be a little bit older, but yeah, it's that power is something that I want to see. And I do like Bob's example there of kind of using Thomas Sosa as the barometer next year when we do get to see him. I think that is going to be a really good test. But yeah, 5 home runs this year, hit nearly 300. I mentioned the 161 WRC plus, 16 doubles as well. So more power in the tank than what we saw. He's going to be a lot of fun. I just hope that injury isn't too serious, whatever it was. Excited to finally see him next year.
Yeah, that's all it is for me. I got to see him in the field. I got to see him at the plate. I got to see what this guy even looks like standing in a batter's box. So, yeah, I'm excited to find out. Obviously, the numbers look great, but is he real? We don't know until he gets to Delmarva. Like, literally, does he exist? I don't know.
And we'll go to our pitcher now, Esteban Mejia. As I just mentioned a moment ago, Mejia finished second in the FCL in strikeouts. He's now at low A Delmarva and putting up very strong numbers over his first two outings with the Shorebirds. He's also been recognized as the top 100 prospect by Baseball America. We were a little bit more tempered in our evaluation of Mejia when we did our recent top 50 update. He ranks at number 12 in the farm system for us right now. But still, this has been a really impressive rise. And I'll correct myself there, 13th in the farm system per our list. But this has been a really impressive rise for Mejia this year. Bob, I'll start with you. How would you summarize Esteban Mejia at this point?
Electric. Yeah, I think I'll be Dr. Keith Law and say the delivery is perfect. The delivery is great. Yeah, he's got a natural, starter's build, starter's delivery. I will say I was promised that he sits 100 and touches 102. I feel like it's been more like he sits 98 and touches 100, but that maybe he's gotten a little tired as he reaches his innings total from last year here, moving up to Delmarva. But the slider, that's been more impressive than I was expecting. I've seen it as high as 94 miles per hour and just nasty. I'm not disappointed in the fastball, by the way. It looks ridiculously good, too. 4 1/3 innings pitched, only 1 walk and 7 strikeouts in his last outing Sunday. I think, Zach, you were there to see it in person. Can't wait to hear what you thought. But just from what I've been able to see in his 2 starts with Delmarva, and I was paying pretty close attention, I think I don't know about top 100. I feel like I'd still have Trey Gibson ahead of him because he's doing it now in AAA. But he's certainly something. He's certainly a nice asset to have in this organization and a key reason why you need that international program.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Is it the scars of Keeler Morphe? Although he had a really good outing. He had a really good outing this past weekend. But I do think it might be the scars of Keeler Morphe a little bit here. Just, we haven't seen him pitch in the cold yet. He was in the DSL, then to Sarasota, doesn't come to Delmarva until this past week. So let's see what he's like next April, early April, back in Salisbury. He doesn't turn 19 until March. So when he takes the mound that first week of the season next year, he will be just barely 19 years old with a real opportunity to be in high A by midseason if all goes to plan. And he continues to pitch like this. But yeah, the numbers are fantastic. Zach was there. You've been able to see him in person. That's going to be the best analysis here on Mejia, being the guy who's seen him up close and personal. Is it explosive in real life as it is that we've seen the clips of?
Well, I'll put it this way. The first pitch of the game per the stadium gun was 100 miles per hour, and it had a sound. It wasn't like, it looks like it was fast. It had a sound. And it was just this zip flying out of Mejia's hand over home plate, a strike. What I think is so good about Mejia right now is that he can change speeds with the fastball with ease and do it in a way that the hitter doesn't know what to get. And I have to think that especially coming from that 6'4" frame, that there's a pretty big difference between 97 and 100 with the fastball coming out of Mejia's hand. But the way that he manages his delivery from the tempo to the release point, you don't really know what you're going to get when he lets go of a fastball. It could be 97, it could be 100, it could be 98. You just don't know, and the hitters really don't have a lot of time to react. He's got a really powerful slider that is just flat out nasty when he locates it. I put this in our Discord that I kind of got Kerry Wood flashbacks watching his slider a little bit. Go back to young Kerry Wood and how he could just mow hitters down with his slider. Mejia flashes that at points. He mixes in a changeup, which I don't think is on the same level as a slider, but when it's coming out at about 92 miles per hour, it's clearly a pitch you want to work with. The big thing for Mejia is just going to be throwing strikes more consistently. Right now, I think he works himself into a lot of deep counts, and because his stuff is so good and because he's in low A, he's able to battle his way out of them. But as he moves up, that's going to be a challenge that he's going to have to overcome because you're not going to be able to blow hitters away like you are in low A. But if he can get to a point where he's getting ahead in the count consistently and staying ahead, look out, because the stuff is really good now. And I have to think, given how the Orioles develop their pitchers, that they're going to find something else to add to his arsenal at some point.
Yeah. You have to imagine there's something softer that could go along with it. But yeah, this is a tinkering organization, and I love it. Maybe they do the 2-3 fastball thing where he'll have 4-seam, 2-seam cutter. Yeah, a lot to do, a lot of gold to work with here.
And that's, if you look at the walk numbers, some of the control issues he has, like, if I see that from an arm like Esteban Mejia, I view that a lot differently than I do Chase Allsup, who's also in Delmarva right now. That's a more advanced college arm who's having the control issues. Can you fix it as he gets older? Yes, you can. If we could talk about Chase McDermott up in AAA, that's a whole segment on its own. You can see some progressions you can make there, but that's something you can fix. But like, how much are you really going to? Is Chase Allsup ever going to have that really good control and command that he could allow him to become a starter at the next level? But with Esteban Mejia, you're talking about an 18-year-old kid and these taller, lankier international prospects who they need to grow so much physically. By the time they're in the DSL, to next year, opening day next year, he's going to be 2 inches taller, 30, 40 pounds heavier potentially over that 2-3 year span. And so now he's got to learn how to pitch with this entire new physical frame. And look at Eber Kataya, the baby giraffe last year. Look how much more under control he is this year. I think it's those taller, lanky international prospects that have wild control in the DSL. If the stuff is as good like that, like Mejia has, I'm not concerned really at all up to this point about the Walker control issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add on to that I think for his frame, he's very lanky at 6'4". He does a reasonably good job of repeating his delivery. Obviously, it's something he should get better at as he fills out. But compared to, Killer Morphe, certainly, or some of the other younger international arms in the system, I think Mejia is a little bit ahead in that area.
It certainly seems so.
And with that does it for this week's episode. We will be back next week to break down all the latest news in Birdland. In the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member of our community. You can join at the $3, $5, or $10 levels, have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 list and patron-exclusive channels within our Discord community. You're not going to want to miss that. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're crushing morning miles or sprinting through back-to-back meetings, give your body the energy, protein, and power it needs to help you conquer your goals. Only at Smoothie King.